There are times when men want to get away from it all. Times when they want to meet new friends, enjoy new experiences. When they want to work hard at something they've never done before.
Hey, Larry, you guys doing already?
So you're from Miami?
Yeah, Miami Beach. What about yourself?
LA?
Really?
Yeah.
What type of work you do out there?
I'm an attorney.
Oh, another one. Hi, how you doing?
You have a good day today?
Yeah, real good. Here you go.
A lot of men enjoy meeting challenges, overcoming obstacles, the feeling of success, taking control of the world around them.
Hey, that was some dinner, huh?
How's your case to beer?
Until recently, losing their hair was one challenge men could do very little about.
Yeah, please. Yeah, you had dinner yet? Look a little red up there. You better wear this tomorrow.
A nice bunch of guys out for a few days of fun in the wilderness. For the next few minutes, we'll visit with some of them and share with you what they told us. And what they have to say just may change the way you look at yourself and the way others look at you. Hello, my name's Steve Salgi. Our friends on the camping trip have some interesting stories to tell, and we have some facts that you really need to understand if you, like many of them, are concerned about hair loss. We offer you no secrets or magic elixirs, but rather medical facts about your options and about the only product that has been proven to grow hair, Rogaine. Rogaine is a topical solution that's applied to the area where the hair is falling out. It's the first treatment that is demonstrated in various clinical trials to be effective against androgenetic alopecia. That's male pattern balding on the crown of the head. We'll get back to the guys on the rafting trip in a moment. But first, we'd like you to meet Dr. Kitzmiller and Dr. Schillinger. They're both practicing dermatologists with a lot of experience in dealing with the problems that men face when they start to go bald. Right, doctors?
I see them all the time. Men are just as concerned about going bald now as they were about acne when they were younger. Some of them visibly shaken about losing their hair. For many men, there are serious psychological effects to balding. Studies have shown that hair loss can be a devastating experience for many guys. It was for some of the men on the rafting trip that we're about to meet.
You know, a lot of this is probably due to the fact that men have become much more concerned about their appearance in the last few years. In our attempt to look better, we wash, condition, and comb our hair in a vast variety of ways. There seems to be a different style for nearly every individual. That's why it's easy to understand the anxiety many people experience when they start losing their hair and their preoccupation with regaining it.
It's part of a whole growing importance that's put on lifestyle and self-image. It really ties in with eating right, exercising, and taking care of yourself. But the search for finding a method for replacing lost hair could be a very frustrating one.
Friends on the rafting trip are like men all over the country. Image and appearance are important to them. It's not just ego or vanity in the negative sense of those words. It's an honest concern for oneself.
Now, look at these guys camping by the side of a mountain stream. Yeah, they're having a good time. Clearly, they feel good about themselves, especially, as we'll see, those who decided to do something about their hair loss.
Surely, deciding to do something about hair loss is not a life or death decision, but it's a decision that can make you feel good about yourself. And as a physician, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that, because hair loss can be a real problem for a lot of guys.
If I got a problem, I usually like to analyze the problem, then tackle it head on.
Attack it. Just go right for the problem, try and handle it as best you can.
The first thing I do is try to find out exactly what that problem is so that I can treat the problem and not the symptoms. There was a very clear-cut moment for me. It was one morning early, I looked in the mirror and I said, I don't want to be bald, fat, and 40. So it hit me like a rock. I mean, it really did. God must have thrown down the testaments or something and said, do something about it, Larry. People haven't seen me for a year and they say, did you lose weight? Are you getting taller? And then when I tell them what goes on, they go, yeah, that's right, you have got more hair. Before I started using Rogaine, I was very self-conscious about the spot that was becoming thin in the back. I've always worn this type of hairstyle, so my styling hasn't changed, but what has changed is the density of the hair in the back, where just about everybody who experiences baldness starts losing. The male pattern baldness, the spot in the back, you know, no spots. The alternatives to the product are, for me, was going bald, which I did not want to do. A hairpiece is artificial. I particularly don't want to have anything artificial on my head because, you know, I've told a few rug jokes myself, and if I have to go bald, if that's what nature gives me, then I definitely want to go bald gracefully. Rogaine is not artificial. It's my hair. It's as simple as brushing your teeth in the morning. You get in the system, squirt it in the morning, squirt it before you go to bed, and that's it.
Clearly, Larry Tolbert is happy with the results, and he's happy with the ease with which Rogaine can be used.
And that's great. Larry is one of the ones who's had good results with the product. And I'm sure his dermatologist is happy for him as well.
I think you're right. Physicians, too, get a lot of satisfaction when their patients respond well to a treatment program. I've personally shared the joy felt by my patients who've responded successfully to Rogaine treatments.
Of course, as Larry knows, Rogaine is a treatment, not a cure. And if you stop using Rogaine, you'll probably shed the new hair within a few months after stopping treatment. And it's a treatment that requires a commitment on the part of the patient to use the product twice a day, every day. But for Larry, that seems to be an easy commitment. As he says, using Rogaine is as easy as brushing your teeth.
And commitment is important. Clearly, the guys on this trip are committed, probably, to everything they do in life. And that's what the Rogaine treatment program requires, particularly in the beginning. After all, you didn't lose your hair overnight, and it's not going to start growing back overnight either.
Now let's meet Jeff Schenkel. His story is not unusual at all. He started taking grief for his hair loss along with some of his college buddies.
All my friends started making fun of me. We had this razzing between all of us because we were all losing our hair. And it was a contest of who was going to lose it first. You know, some people had the receding hairline, some people were losing it from the top, and I was just kind of thinning on top. So I didn't take quite as much abuse as everybody else did. It was growing bigger foreheads. But we handed out a lot of abuse to each other. I don't think I ever denied it. I just kind of said, hey, it's happening. Let's just let it, you know, I can't stop the course of nature. And at that point, I really didn't realize that I could.
Well, it seems Jeff started to lose his hair at a fairly young age.
Not really. A lot of men start to notice hair loss in their late teens. The most common cause of hair loss is hereditary, and in that situation, hair loss can start fairly early with some guys.
And we should mention, of course, that certain non-hereditary factors, such as inflammatory processes and vascular disease, can cause hair loss. And there are other medical reasons that could cause the problem. But you're certainly right. The vast majority of hair loss is due to hereditary factors. This is a type of hair loss called alopecia androgenetica.
At age 20, a person possesses about 100,000 hairs on his head. Even if this number diminishes with age, those individuals who are not predisposed to losing their hair or do not suffer from problems that provoke hair loss, they'll maintain the better part of their hair thanks to a constant cycle of regrowth.
Normally, a person will lose between 65 and 80 hairs a day. If you lose no more than this, you generally have nothing to worry about. But among people experiencing hair loss, this daily number can be far greater.
And whether this loss occurs gradually or quickly, there comes a point where hair loss can no longer be denied.
One day I was playing with my nephew, and he was crawling on my body, and he crawled up to my head, and he was sort of wandering around my head, and he said, "Uncle Jim, what are all these big white spots on your head?" And at first I thought he was talking about dandruff, and then I realized he was talking about my scalp. And I realized that I was really bald. I think there's a tremendous bias in our society in favor of youth and vigor. I don't think anybody wants to hasten the process of looking older. You want to accept it gracefully when it happens. There's nothing wrong with looking your age, but you don't want to hasten it or have it happen sooner than you feel. I could feel hair back there, and so I always lied to myself and said, well, it's really not that receded. And then I would look in a mirror, and I would try to tell myself, well, it just happens to be the way the hair is falling. And then finally I just realized that it was real thin. And then it started getting thinner all along in here, and they were meeting. The receding hairline and the crown were meeting. And the thing that bothered me the most was that all the hair all over the top of my head was getting thinner. I stopped losing hair within a month, within 2 months, which I was surprised because I was told it would take 6 months. But then hair started growing back. It just started looking fuller. At first it was pretty imperceptible, but I'd say within 6 months, it was radically different. People do notice the difference, and it's wonderful. I love it when people say, oh yeah, your hair looks a lot thicker, a lot fuller. We like to think we don't care about compliments on our looks, but it's nice. It's nice to hear.
So what are we hearing here, doctors? That every male who wants to be complimented on his looks and who starts to lose more than 85 hairs a day should use Rogaine and his worries are over?
Not at all. On occasion, you come across results such as Jim's. But his results are only seen in about 8% of patients.
The decision to use Rogaine is a very personal one. It's one that a man needs to discuss with his physician. We are dealing with a prescription pharmaceutical here, and of course, as is the case with many prescription products, they don't work the same for everyone.
But getting with a dermatologist and discussing hair loss treatment options, including whether Rogaine is appropriate, is definitely a first step.
I've got patients, as do many dermatologists, who've had good results with Rogaine, and others who've seen only minimal regrowth. The degree of success can vary greatly. I tell my patients that a 4 to 6 month trial with Rogaine is necessary to fairly evaluate whether Rogaine is for them.
And it's essential that patients using Rogaine understand the importance of compliance. Rogaine should be used twice a day, every day, using the recommended dosage.
Clinical studies indicate that after 4 months of treatment with Rogaine, hair growth is seen in 34% of all cases. Studies of patients using Rogaine have shown that the most common side effects directly attributable to Rogaine topical solution were itching and other skin irritations of the treated area of the scalp. About 5% of patients had these complaints. After 12 months of use, the percentage that benefits increases considerably. But the solution is not effective for everybody, and in those for whom it does work, growth is often only moderate. 8% of all cases achieve dense growth. In clinical studies, this patient was evaluated as having minimal regrowth, this patient as having moderate regrowth, and this patient as having dense regrowth.
There's a greater chance of achieving dense growth in younger patients for whom the period of hair loss has not been long. In other patients that I've seen, about 40% see some growth.
And there's another percentage of patients who see little or no growth. What it really comes down to is that it's important that patients need to have realistic expectations when they start using Rogaine.
That's for sure. I've seen patients who've had good, moderate regrowth, but were disappointed because they had unrealistically high expectations. On the other hand, I've had patients who are more than satisfied with minimal regrowth.
Let's rejoin our friends in Colorado to hear from someone who wanted to do something for his hair loss, but initially had very low expectations for Rogaine.
I was like terrified that when I reached 30, it would all happen. You know, I'd put on weight and I'd start, becoming more unhealthy. I'd stop exercising. And that's really what happened, and of course my hair would start going. And it was really like a nightmare come true. And the reality was that I was, hiding how I felt about it. Every time I noticed that I was getting a little balder, and I had this thing which is like starting to fill in now, but I had some stuff on the back of my head. It was sort of getting very thin, and then in between there was like this valley, and then there was like this bit of the front which was a bit like Woody the Woodpecker. I really didn't have any expectations because I was one of these people at the time that thought, well, it probably won't work for me then because, it's like, this is my life. But, I was still ready to try it out. And I'm really pleased I did. But I was excited. So it was like just 5 months before I saw quite a bit of, filling in on the back of my crown. And it continues. It's thicker now than it was then. That's a couple of months ago. So it's, continuing to work. The hurdle was actually, making a commitment to do it for a space of time and see if it worked. And then, it sort of gave me permission to do a lot of other things in my life in the same way, and to go for the opportunities in my life when they appeared, not to worry about them. I started feeling a lot better just because I'd set out with intention to go, and not to turn back. And, I felt the benefits of that, in every way. I don't think you have to wait until you're 30 to start trying to improve the quality of your life. I think it's an ongoing process. The sooner you start, the better.
Well, now, Mike seems to feel that doing something about his hair loss has improved his whole outlook on life.
It sure seems that way, and that's not unusual. How we look does affect how we feel, and that in turn affects our outlook on life. We see that correlation a lot in dermatology. Mike's feelings are those that I think would be shared with other men in a similar situation.
So as physicians, what do you tell your patients when they come to you with a hair loss problem?
First, I tell them there are no promises. Of course, no guarantees. But while there is no cure for hereditary hair loss, there are medical options, including the use of Rogaine as well as hair transplants and cosmetic surgery. Clearly, Rogaine is the first treatment option for ease of use.
That's right, but I also have to be honest with them. Tell them that we'll never know how well or if Rogaine will work for them until they try it. There are just too many variables to predict results. It might be helpful to understand briefly how the hair growth process works. Hair is a fiber made of a protein called keratin. It's attached at its root to the epidermis by means of a bulb known as the capillary follicle. This follicle is able to produce 1 millimeter of hair every 3 days. That's about ½ an inch a month. Hair follows a growth cycle. In the first stage, it grows for 2 to 5 years. Then the follicle passes through a transitional stage, and that lasts from about 1 to 2 weeks before finally entering a state of rest with a duration of approximately 3 months. It's the hairs of this stage that usually end up in brushes and combs. And if they're not pulled out by brushing or combing, they end up falling out, pushed by new hair growth at the roots. Hair constantly renews itself, and so long as the capillary follicle remains intact, the cycle repeats itself. When a person loses his hair for genetic reasons, the new hairs that appear with each growth cycle become smaller and finer. This is a gradual process, and it continues until the hair has been replaced by a kind of vellus hair. Rogaine reverses this miniaturization process. The Hamilton scale shows the diverse patterns of hair loss in men. About 90% of individuals genetically predisposed to losing their hair suffer from one of these patterns of hair loss. In the United States, some 70 million people have lost or are losing their hair.
And while it doesn't work the same for everyone, Rogaine is the only product that has been shown to grow hair.
Well, now let's meet Tony, the youngest man on the rafting trip. He's a guy who started losing his hair at a very early age and started using Rogaine soon thereafter.
I started realizing it when, I guess when my brother started making fun of me. And I was around 21, 22, somewhere in between that group. And I started noticing it myself when I'm showering and I see the hair in the tub and so on. We're all self-conscious of everything, and I'm self-conscious of that. I was a little skeptical, of course, but after the first 4 months, I felt results. I felt positive. I think it's worth a try for anybody who's suffering from this problem. And if they see positive results, then go for it. It took me 4 months to see results, then I'm going to continue using it. I'm very positive. I feel more energetic. I want to work out more. I want to go out, associate with people more, because I feel like there's something actually positive occurring. It didn't just boom, yeah, look, it's happening. It happened. Meeting certain people I haven't seen in a while. Every time they say positive, I just feel positive. It's not like a big bang, but it's very rewarding all the same.
Feeling better. And we keep hearing that comment, don't we?
Certainly. Feeling good is important. We've seen that throughout the interviews, and I see it all the time in my practice. Many guys who are starting to lose their hair don't feel good about themselves. Rogaine gives them the opportunity to try to reverse those feelings.
Everyone wants to feel good. And for many men, that means trying to keep a full head of hair, if at all possible. And for many who are experiencing hair loss, that means coming to a decision with their physician to give Rogaine a try.
I don't think you can use Rogaine because someone else tells you to use it. I think you have to do it for yourself because you want to use it and you want to have hair on yourself. My feeling is if there is something that I can control and there's something out there that can help me keep my hair, then I'm going to go ahead and give it a try and use it. And in my case, I'm happy that it worked. I know there have been other products on the market that say they promote hair growth, and I've been speaking to a lot of people about it, and they don't work. So you're somewhat skeptical when you first use another product, but this one clearly works. Do what's right for you. If you don't mind going bald, don't use it. If you mind it, there's a solution out there for you. Give it a try. Well, my doctor was going bald, and he's using the product, and it's working for him. I noticed results probably about 3 to 4 months after I started using it. And it hasn't stopped working. It's working. It's working for me. when I first realized it was working, probably just, blow drying my hair in the morning and realizing, hey, I got something here that wasn't there before. And, it's a gradual process. It doesn't happen overnight. And just gradually, you could see you're starting to fill in some areas and being able to comb an area that once before there was nothing to comb. Denial. That's the word. You try to deny you're losing your hair, but after a while, when you look in the mirror enough times, you see there's no denying it.
Larry's denial of his problem early on was typical. It took him a while to realize that his hair loss was excessive.
And he, like many men, probably noticed he was losing his hair before others did. And he started looking for a treatment program at the right time, before the loss became excessive and before the rest of the world noticed. He, like the others, made a decision to take control of his hair loss.
Doctors, thank you. Now, let's get back to the river.
Get ready. Hold sweep and get real back. Drop the runner. Real strong. Hold down, hold down, hold down. Go right back.
Nobody else gets any more benefit from it than I do. I'm the one that's growing hair. I'm the one that feels good about the product. I'm using it for myself.
For myself. You can't do it for anyone else. You have to use this for yourself. If you feel like this is a major problem like I do, you just do it for yourself.
I have no problems with having hair, so I'd like to keep it that way.
I'm doing it for myself. I mean, other people have said, oh, you look better, or they've encouraged me, but I am doing it for myself.
Every day, I do something that's specifically for me. It takes like 3 seconds.
Now it's full. Everywhere where there is hair, it's very, very full. And that's all I really wanted.